Good day, my name's Graham. My grandfather told me once in a dream or whenever it was that you never get any older if you don't want to. So I try my best to stay fit and young as possible because, well, if you get old, well, it can be a lot of pain, you need a lot of medications, and basically the government thinks you're a nuisance. Or, well, you actually, as long as someone's making money out of you, if you've got super and you can feed into some company or corporation that makes money looking after old people, well, then someone will profit out of your last days of your life. But because superannuation and then pensions and that is a big thing, and old age care is a big thing people invest in. But there's something about the modern age and this, when it comes to, they all talk about equality, and they rave on about equality and we all should be treated the same and stuff like that, which is a great big diversion, exactly for the reason is that they are killing all people off in Australia and in the UK in particular by raising the cost of energy for all people. So they cannot, in Australia you cannot keep cool in summer by being able to afford air conditioning when it's extremely hot in your house. And in England, of course, it's extremely cold and people cannot afford to keep warm in winter, which just shows that regardless of all the supposed generosity towards immigrants, I comment that the people in the left were all about equality and human rights and stuff like that. Never once have I heard one of them mention making sure all people are comfortable in their homes. This makes them all hypocrites as far as I'm concerned. They're concerned about immigrants from foreign countries who've never worked in the West, never done a day's work, and may never do work. Because there's no work. Basically, there's a competition for employment anyway. But people who may have worked all their life, from the 50s and 60s onwards, these people are basically being sacrificed in the name of whatever climate change or whatever excuse there is to raise the cost of electricity. So therefore all the people who ought to be really looked after, if we had a Christian and caring and humane society, all the people are being killed off, because it works like this. If you get a chill when you're older, if you're old and frail, and sometimes people get old and frail, if you get a chill, it's very, very hard to get chilled in your bones. When it's very, very hard to get that out. It's extremely difficult then to eliminate that chill out of your body. People don't, it depletes the energy out of them, and therefore they end up sort of sick and dying before maybe they ought, they naturally would do. And you could say, well, naturally they're dying because it's cold. But when there's all nuclear power and all the energy and fuel available to keep people warm, or in the case of Australia, cool, then there is no excuse whatsoever for any government, no matter what its causes or ideology is, to freeze all people in winter, or in the case of Australia, cook them in summer. And also in Australia, regardless, it has this advertised as this hot and sunny place, in winter it can be extremely cold for many months here. And you can experience cold and you can't afford to put a heater on anymore in winter, because the people are saving the planet, because they're saving the planet to save the human race, but they're actually doing damage. It's all a diversion. And because the people on the left, the liberals in America and left, are not allowed to question the authority, whoever that is, whether this is George Soros or whoever it is, the EU or the IPCC or the UN, or whoever these authorities are, will say you're not allowed to question anything. Of course, they're all sort of numb and dumb and don't give a damn. It's the Me Too generation, the me generation, and therefore the simple principle of what a civilized and humane society is being broken down by the way the old people are being treated. And it's despicable. There's no shame, in other words, in the political system itself. There is no shame, and there's no shame amongst all the young who I've not heard any young person who are all carrying on about letting immigrants into the country. I've not heard one of them say, well, my grandmother's freezing. There ought to be, never mind, we'll stop the immigrants coming in, we can't afford to come in, and them to come in, well, we can't, surely better to afford to keep all the people warm in Britain or cool in summer in Australia, rather than afford a lot of immigrants who will be non-productive people. So this is a great shame, I find. I'm quite robust to look after myself. This is a great shame. Not everyone's fortunate enough to be able to keep their health. You've got to fight all your day, every day of your life. You've got to fight for your health. When it comes to getting warm, though, when it comes to sweating, the amount of when you get really, really hot, well, you lose all your salts. And if the people are old and not aware, they do not realise all the electrolytes are lost from their body. They don't realise they become weak and sick because of the heat. And no, the worst part about it is that then their spine compressors. They start getting backaches. You don't realise, why have I got a backache all of a sudden? It's because the discs are not being rehydrated. And therefore people are getting an enormous amount of back pain, which then it adds to the cost of keeping them healthy. It adds to the public health cost. The government says, oh, we're worried and concerned about the cost of the public health and the Medicare and the health services in England, what is the National Health Service in England. They're worried about that, but they're causing a lot of illness and a lot of burden, a cost burden upon these things with this kill off the old people eugenics program. I mean, they're no longer any use to the corporations, so they're sort of eliminating them. It's as simple as that. And that's why at the moment, for one, I'm totally ashamed of the political system and the political parties. They're not worth voting for, because none of them give a damn. They've never heard one say, well, we're going to boost the heating of old people, or make sure all old people in Australia can afford air conditioning. Because therefore, there is no basic philosophy or discussion amongst any of them about what the meaning of equality means in the real sense of the word. Because I honestly think now, and believe very strongly now, there should be a sliding scale system where all people, no matter what your income is, should be able to afford a basic heating or basic cooling. Everyone should have an equality in the basic static capitals of life, the common things that we all have in common. We all need to keep warm, we all need to keep cool. Sure, not everyone can be as successful as the Rothschilds, or well, half of these people are just born into the money, so they've been successful. It happened a long time ago, and they just inherit the wealth and fortune and power, which is then it accumulates more and more to these extremely rich families who seem to have lost their soul. They seem to be soulless. The whole place, the humanity in the West seems to have lost its soul. It seems to be doesn't care about the sort of damage it's doing to old people. Every day, everyone gets old, and the young people today who are ignoring the basic principle of life is to respect the old people. They've got great karma coming to them, and they don't realise it. They're pawns in a very cynical game by the major corporation of finances of the world, trying to establish a new world order of reducing world populations, or whatever they got in mind, Agenda 21 or whatever it is. And the one way of doing it is eliminating the cost burden of those who no longer have any use to the corporations in one way or other. So freezing old people and cooking them in Australia is one way of eliminating a cost burden. Regardless, they're costing the health system a lot more, because people then get all these back pains. But of course they own the drug companies and the pharmaceutical companies, so they're making all the same time. They're still making profits out of their trouble and the pain and suffering they're causing, which just makes you think how damn evil all these people are who are running these countries. The rest of the country is supposed to be civilised. It's not, is it? When you treat old people like this, it's not civilised at all. It's barbaric.